Welcome back, students. It's Mr. Howe again. Tonight you're going to be multiplying by multiples of 10 and 100. Are you ready for tonight's riddle? What is the world's longest punctuation mark? Now, by the end of tonight's lesson, you should be able to correctly solve multiplication problems like 20 times 3 and 20 times 300, and be able to explain how the two problems are similar. Here I have two base 10 rods for a total of 20. If I wanted to multiply 20 times 4, it would be like having 4 sets of 20. So let's first take a look at what that would look like as a model. So now you can see I have 4 sets of 20. If we were to stop and count it up, I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So when I look at it as a model, I know that 4 sets of 20 is 80. If we look at it as the multiplication problem, then we can see that first I'm going to do 4 times 0, which would give me 0, and then 4 times 2, which would give me 8. So whether I'm doing it by multiplication or through a model, I get 80 for the answer. So now we're going to look at a series of problems, and I want you to see if you can identify any patterns in the answers. So if I multiply the factors 20 times 4, the one we've already done, we know that the answer to that is 80. But look what happens if I multiply 4 times 200. Well, I could skip count by 200, 4 times 20, 40, 200, 400, 600, 800. I'd get 800. I could also do 2,000 times 4, which is going to be, again, if I skip counted, 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. And I'm going to switch things up a little bit. Now I'm going to do 2 times 40. So 2 sets of 40 is 80. And I'm going to do 20 times 40. And the answer to that is 800. And I'm going to do 200 times 40. And the answer to that is 8,000. And just for fun, let's go ahead and do 400 times 20. And the answer to that is also 8,000. So let's just kind of look at what patterns there might be in this. Well, first off, in each of the numbers that I multiplied, my only numbers that were not 0 were 2 and 4. Every time I multiplied 2 times 4, I got 8. The only difference is how big the products ended up being. But they're directly related to the number of zeros in the factors that I multiplied. So here I had 1 0 in this factor, my product ends up with 1 0. 2 zeros, 2 zeros. In this factor I have, in the number 2,000, there are 3 zeros. There's no zeros in the number 4, so I end up with 3 zeros in my answer. Over here, I've got 40 times 2, and I have 1 0, 1 0. 2 times 4 is still 8, and 2 zeros gives me 800. You're welcome to stop and skip count by 40 20 times and see what happens. And again, I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. 2 times 4 is 8, 1, 2, 3 zeros. Flipping the numbers around, changing them up a bit, I still end up with 3 zeros. So hopefully you've seen that the way each of these problems is similar is that when there's just a 2 and a 4 and all zeros, other than that, I will always end up with the 8, and then I just need to stop for a moment and count the number of zeros in the two factors that I'm multiplying, and I'll know how many zeros are in my product. So now it's going to be your turn. Now I'd like you to copy these problems down onto your whisk and complete the answers to them. stop the video and then come back and check to see that you got the correct answer. Okay, hopefully your work is done. Now here's your answers. The first answer is 42. The second answer is 420. The third answer is 4,200. The next answer is 42,000. Then we have 77 times 60, and we have 420. 60 times 70 is 4,200. And finally, 600 times 70, 6 times 7 is 42, and we have 3 zeros. So hopefully you got all of these right. Now there's one special case that I want to show you before we end the video, and I give you the answer to the riddle. So what happens when you have two factors like 4 and 5 that are already going to give you a 0 in the answer, in the product? So 4 times 5 is 20. Well, if I were to do 40 times 5, again, we could skip count by 40 5 times. 40, 80, 120, 160, 200. So my answer is 200. Hopefully what you're seeing is that the 4 times the 5 gives you the 20, and then the zeros, that final 0 comes from the 0 and the 40. So again, let's go ahead and take a look at one more problem, and we'll do 400 times 50. So I would start off by multiplying the 4 times the 5, which is 20, and then going back and counting my zeros up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would provide me with my final answer of 20,000. So that's really all there is to this. You're going to be practicing this in school tomorrow, so hopefully you understand it. If you don't know your multiplication facts, it'd be a good time to study them. And so now I know you are waiting for the answer to the riddle. What is the world's longest punctuation mark? Of course, it's the 100-yard dash. Have a great night.